The following podcast contains explicit language.
All right. Thank you for joining us again for another awesome episode of the Diesel Performance Podcast. I'm Paul Wilson.
And I'm Danny Voss.
We're excited to be here today. We have a real treat for all of our Powerstroke fans. If you got an oval on the front, finally, right? If you got an oval on the front of the truck, you're going to really be into this. This is just going to be about Powerstroke Turbos.
Yeah, pretty exciting. We're here with Art Martinez of Psp Diesel. And Art, introduce yourself. Tell us about you. Tell us how you got the name PSP and what you do.
Well, guys, first of all, thanks for having me. My team and myself, thank you guys. We're super excited. I'm a diehard Powerstroke fan, and we love the 6-liter. So I'm open to any bashing.
Okay.
Oh, both of our faces just puckered up like we ate a lemon. What, you said you love the 6.0?
We do.
And you don't mean a 6.0 gasser.
The 6-liter is an underrated motor. It's really fun to drive, and we love them.
It keeps your shop busy, right?
They whistle.
Yes, it does.
They whistle.
Okay, Art, tell us a little bit about your experience in the industry. I mean, you like 6.0s. There must be a reason for it. But tell me, how much experience do you have working on them, being around them?
I'm currently about a 15-year vet. I was always been with Ford. Kind of new to Texas. I've been here in Texas for about 12 years. Back in California is where I started. Not too many diesels. In California, a lot of Mustang, a lot of drag racing. We moved to Houston, and it basically opened up my eyes. Everywhere we look, we're just surrounded by Powerstrokes, Cummins, and Duramax. So that's kind of where my career led off. I was with Ford for about 15 years, like I said earlier, before I decided to kind of take a leap, take a jump into a small business. So I joined up with my partner, Richard Alvarado, and we've been doing this since about 2007. It's been quite a struggle as a small business owner. We've been challenged with different obstacles, but we're here. We love it. I love what I do. I've got a passion for it. And that's basically it. We're living the dream, I guess, everyday grind,
The Diesel Performance Podcast will return in just a moment, but first we want to talk about our sponsor, Calibrated Power Solutions of Marengo, Illinois. Calibrated Power Solutions is the home of Duramaxtuner.com and developers of performance engine and transmission calibrations for a wide variety of diesel powertrains, including, of course, the Duramax, Cummins, John Deere, Jeep, TDI, and many more. For more information and the best customer service in the industry, check out calibratedpower.com or call 815-568-7920. That's 815-568-7920.
I love it. I left work so I could keep working harder for generally a lower hourly pay. But hopefully it pays out in the long run, right?
You just explained it. My wife tells me, she's like, you're a business owner, like, take a day off. I was like, really? That doesn't exist, I'm surprised I'm not working Sundays, but
the
we
24/7?
We show up to work, 12, 14-hour shifts, and we'll get up and do it all over again.
I love it. Hey, that's what it takes to launch a small business, and I think that's important for our listeners out there. A lot of guys get into this because it's a hobby and they have a lot of fun with it, and they kind of wonder, could I do this full time? And I think you're living proof that you absolutely can if you're willing to really put the blood, sweat, and tears into it.
Yeah,
I tell you what, if I had the option of starting and, if somebody told me, would you do it again? I would say not. I was perfectly fine where I was at as a shop foreman. Pointing fingers, good salary, 8 to 5, and I was home with my family and kids.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, we're here for the bigger picture, and I love what I do. I can't have it no other way.
I dig it.
The rumor is you had a pretty awesome shop truck. Tell us about your shop truck.
Well, the shop truck, Snowballs is what we call it. It's an ongoing project. Kind of started off... It's an F-250, 2006, single cab, long bed. It's currently in the fab shop right now. We're shortening the frame. We're putting a roll cage and basically setting it up for street drag.
Nice. I do a lot of street racing too, drag racing. That's a lot of fun.
And we've been working with Moroso. Doug Vine's been awesome. We've got some special projects going on with him. You know, it's a hot ticket, hot item. We've been getting a lot of calls, a lot of sales. We've basically developed an oil pan, a 25-quart oil pan, and undestructible aluminum coolant reservoir.
Really?
For the 6-liter Powerstroke. But I'm getting off topic, so I'm sorry, guys.
No problem.
This is it's going to be a 6-liter. It's going to have twin parallels, S300s, and I'm hoping to impress some people.
Twin
You know, I think
parallel?
it'll be a really, really good truck to drive out on the drag. I've told people about the project, and they tell me, "Are you fucking crazy? Like, did you just finish saying 6-liter?"
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I wouldn't do it with the 6.4. Doing it with the 6.4 or 6.7 is way too easy. So I think we picked a good one, the 6-liter Powerstroke. It's a late production, even worse. But we're gonna make it good.
Yeah.
I think people will enjoy it.
You know, we'll touch on that topic. Talking about the late, production 6-liters. When we get to the 6.0s, definitely that's something to talk about.
Well, hold on. I got a few questions here. I caught twin parallel S300s.
Right.
We're talking like S366s, one on each bank.
Right.
So did you run a girdle around the entire engine to keep the heads on it? How's that going to hold,
No,
Chief?
it's built. It's got Gorilla rods. It's got ARP hardware, bows, cufflinks, bow tie, everything on it. You know, from top to bottom. Hopefully, we can keep it together. If we don't, you know what? I'll probably do it again until we get it right.
Wow.
But it's going to be what I'm kind of thinking about doing is they're going to be custom manifolds, so you can kind of just keep it together, keep up. We're going to reverse the manifolds instead of going through the back. Have the up pipes in the back. We're going to reverse them and have the exhaust manifolds going through the front. We're going to mount the S300s kind of right and left in front of each cylinder head, and then run it through the intercooler, come up on top, kind of like an LS.
Wow.
And you said, now, that thing will hold 6.25 gallons of oil.
25 quarts.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a lot of oil.
It's a pretty cool design. We're not going to run a cooler. We're going to block it off. The pan has a modified pickup. It's got trap doors where the pickup sits for launching, boost launches, make sure we don't dry feed the motor. It's got cooling tubes, 1-inch cooling tubes on each side. It's got cooling fins. So it's pretty stout. We've got a couple oil pans out in the street right now, and I can tell you last summer when we tried it out on my partner's truck, he's got a heavily modified 6-liter, pushing about 650 daily driver. On hot days, his deltas were basically even. There was maybe at wide open throttle, we saw a climb of about 7 or 8 degrees between the ECT and the EOT.
Right.
But for the most part, I think it was a good design. We've had a lot of traffic. Doug over at Moroso is having a really hard time trying to keep up.
That's a good thing, man. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So Art, our Powerstroke specialist. I got a 7.3. Everybody knows I got a 7.3.
What year?
It's a 95, old body style. Love to
right.
hate it. I absolutely gutless. It's an extended cab long bed on 33s with a gear jammer. So thank God my trip to work is only 3 minutes, because otherwise I probably wouldn't have any eardrums left from the damn drone out of a 5-inch exhaust. It is stock. I think I got a TS chip on it. I actually bought it from one of the mechanics here after I sold my Duramax, and I just needed a little winter beater. So works out great for that. I mean, it is old trusty rusty. It fires up every day, even when everybody else's LMLs and LMMs are out there frozen up and gelled up, and glow plugs dying in Danny's LDZ,
right.
and all my Duramax favorites. I still get to work every day, so I do love that factor of it. But it's just got no balls.
Well, you've got a whopping, you said it's a gear jammer, huh? 275?
You got it.
So you've probably got a chip. You've got a colder intake exhaust.
Yep.
You're probably pushing maybe a close 300, maybe about 20, 25 pounds of boost on a good day.
Yeah, probably closer to like 18 to 20 pounds of boost. But yeah, I'm sure I'm right there. I have not actually put on the rollers, which is interesting. Maybe we'll dyno it after this podcast and see how close you come in your estimate here. I like that. Okay. So tell me, I want to upgrade. I'm going to throw a clutch in it. I'm going to put something that I can daily drive, a street turbo on it is what I would call it, right? I don't want to get into messing with my fuel system. I don't want to get into messing with high pressure pumps. What do you got for me? What should I do?
Well, we're talking direct bolt-on. Basically, your turbo took a dump, and you're looking for a good replacer, something you can basically just grab a six-pack and do it on your driveway or in your garage. I would honestly go with the Dominator 66. You've got the option of a 1.0 AR or even a 1.15 AR. That puppy there is good for about 400 horses.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Now, I probably wouldn't stress it, without, obviously we know the problem with the rods. You more than likely got the good rods, but I wouldn't go over 400 horses.
Okay. Good recommendation for all of our listeners out there.
If you're looking for something a little bit more on the technical side, we can probably look into putting a Hypermax in there.
Okay.
It's still a direct bolt-on, a little bit more power, flows more. But like I said, anything with 7.3 in it, I think 400, 450 probably be pushing without taking the motor out and redoing some of the internals.
Wow.
As far as towing, EGTs, response, I think either or would probably be a very good option.
Okay.
So as far as getting into the later 7.3s, is there anything that you really like to do to those? I know they're pretty slow. They last a long time, but you get a lot of guys coming in saying, I want a hopped up 7.3, 99 to 03.5.
We can probably keep it on the same recipe. The Hypermax, the D66. If we want to get a little bit more aggressive, we can probably put a Garrett PowerMax, or even something a little bit more than that, but we're going to have to do some work with the injectors. I mean, we're talking about 600, 650 horsepower range. The GT45R is a really good turbo, but we're going to have to put a set of sticks in there and probably play with the high-pressure pump.
Gotcha. Okay. So what if I'm just going all out with it? What if I got a motor built, I got all of the injectors in the world, money doesn't mean a thing to me? What turbo should I be considering if I want to get the most I can out of my 7.3?
You want to blow your truck up, huh?
Yes.
Well, I'm probably going to recommend a set of compounds, S400s. We're talking 700 horsepower. But we're going to have to do some intensive work to the injectors and, like I said, run a modified pump on there. And I think at 700 horses on a 7.3, that's pretty impressive.
Very impressive.
I mean, are we talking an S480 over like an S467? I think that's the smallest S400 frame they make for those, right? 66, 67. Okay. How's it drive? I mean, have you been in something like that? Have you gotten to rip around in a rig similar to that? Okay.
No, it is. It's scary.
Scary.
Number one, it's an old truck, or they're old trucks.
Right.
Depending if you've got the coil spring front end or leaf spring front end, it's pretty scary. On the gear jammer situation, you're going to need about 3-4 extra gears, bud.
I will tell you, I ran on the tollway with the truck for the first time this past weekend, screaming 2,600 RPM to do 70 miles an hour.
Oh, I believe it.
Oh, my God. It's just 410 gears, and it's just awful. It's just awful. But that's all right. I get to drive cool trucks other times. Okay, Danny, you've got some 6.0 love. We all know I hate them. I've made no secret of that.
You drive a 6-liter, Danny?
No, but I have love for them. I always tell people there's no room in my driveway for a Ford, but I have appreciation for them. I really do. I used to sell them, and I've kept a lot of customers happy with them, and I've also made a lot of customers angry with them.
Right.
And the thing is, a lot of guys, they start doing things, and they start really getting into things, and before you know it, they got a full-blown deal going. And
I went in for an EGR delete, and I came out owing somebody $10,000. I've heard the sob stories, where I did a set of injectors 3 months ago, and here I am doing another set.
I'm not trying to defend the cause.
No, that's why we're talking. We want to hear from you.
But honestly, what I see is these trucks, and mainly because of 6-liter. I mean, Ford sold so many of them. They end up in the wrong hands of technicians, mechanics who don't know what they're doing, and by the time they end up at a reputable shop, the customer basically just wants to throw up in front of you.
Right.
And that's the honest truth. Do they have issues? Absolutely. You know, I think the engine, the early 6-liter was rushed into production, the emissions and all that stuff. You know, but once you take care of the EGR and you do the reroute, right? It opens up a whole different motor. You know, there's plenty of updates. I tell my customers that it's kind of turned into the 5-liter Mustang.
Right.
You know, there's so many combinations. They're so fun to play with. The ride, the look, everything about them is awesome. So,
except the reliability factor.
Thank you for throwing that in there.
I kid because I love, right?
Right.
Okay. So if I got a 6-liter, what's your first recommendation for my street badass upgrade? What should I do?
Honestly, for a 6-liter, early or late, the Power Max. Power Max is very, very common. There's a lot of guys out there moving some horsepower, pretty impressive numbers. They sound good. The Power Max is a hot ticket, you know, and it's good for about 500 horses.
So as far as the 6.0, what do you recommend as far as tuners? We're
heavy on SCT. You know, SCT, I think they've got the mapping down. Obviously, H&S, their stuff is still around. We're still playing with it, but
getting hard to find.
Everyday use, SCT is the way to go. Gearhead has developed some awesome tuning. I think they've got the 6-liter, 6.4 market down. Great group of guys. And we love them, you know.
I have heard good things about Gearhead before, so that doesn't surprise me to hear that from somebody who's really passionate and in the industry. If I'm doing a 6-liter and I got my SCT programmer from Gearhead and I put a Power Max on it and I maybe threw some injectors at it, and I believe I have to do a high-pressure pump to get to 600, don't I?
Right.
Okay, so now I'm getting ready to blow up my motor. This is always my favorite question. I want to go balls out. I don't want to do twins. Okay, so I want a big badass single. I know in the Duramax world, to those guys, I would usually suggest like an S475 single or a Stealth 67.7, something that's going to make 700 or 800 horsepower by itself. It's probably going to drive like dog shit because big Chargers like that usually have a lot of lag to them. There's like I love that you had mentioned before. You know, we can get into a tighter exhaust housing that'll help improve spool up. So I love knowing that that's true. I mean, that is true no matter what really diesel turbos we're talking about, right? So, but if I want to go badass and I want to go balls out, what ideas do you have for me?
Well, I can tell you a perfect scenario what we do have in the shop right now, and this is a daily driver. You mentioned, and correct me if I'm wrong, S400?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we don't even got to go that big. We've got a truck, a 6-liter, a 2007 6-liter Powerstroke. It's got a S369 on the SX line.
Okay.
And it's got a 190cc injector, 75% over. And this thing is 630 horses.
No shit.
Daily driver.
And you said it's an 07.
Yep.
So I want to thaw out a myth. 07 6-liters are indeed different than 03.5 to 06, correct?
Correct.
And can you tell the listeners here why they are different? What makes them different?
Well, there's actually three generations of 6-liter Powerstrokes. We've got the true 03, has the early style, solid rail, steel braided high pressure lines inside the valve cover, and it's got the early style high pressure pump, early style turbo. That is a true 03 6-liter Powerstroke. And then you've got the adopted 6-liter Powerstroke is what I call it. You know, this is the engine that was basically just kind of left out, and it's got a combination of both engines kind of put together. The mid-gen will have a solid small rail, closed rail, steel braided rear standpipe. It has a late style high pressure pump, and a late-style turbocharger.
What's the difference in the turbochargers? Did they go non-variable vane to variable vane, or did they get larger or smaller?
No, they're both variable.
Okay.
One of them tends to whistle more than the other.
Fucking 6-liter guys in their whistle.
And on the technician end of it, the mounting is different.
Okay.
But for the most part, they do the same application. And we got the third gen is just an 06, 07. That is a true. There's some emission stuff that's kind of different. The early stuff has a round EGR cooler. The late stuff has a square EGR cooler. Some of the other components are different, but it's kind of not worth talking about right now.
Right.
Should we avoid a specific model of 6.0s?
Yeah,
I mean, I would recommend to avoid 6.0s altogether. But if somebody wanted a 6.0, is there
not
one?
if you can buy one cheap enough
Right.
to make money on.
I'll tell a lot of guys like to avoid 03.5 and 04s. Do you see that down where you're at?
Yeah, mainly because we've got the high pressure leaks. There's a big controversy on what what high pressure pump is better. But mainly it's a 6-liter. The first gen, second gen. The first generation is more of a sealed system. There's less exposure to flaws and high pressure leaks. Cranks no starts. Crank no start when hot. The branch tube in the back of the engine is solid. It's bolted down to the top of the high pressure pump. On the third gen of or second generation of 6-liter Powerstrokes, there was various updates. There's tremendous amount of leak points within the dummy pipes, rear stem pipes, the injectors, the high pressure fitting, the high pressure pump. So a lot of people prefer the early 6-liters.
For power.
The suspension is a bit different from the early to late, but for the most part, we're talking engine. I truly do believe that the late style 6-liter engine is the better. Some people might contradict. Some people might not like my opinion, but
fuck
I've had 3 of them in the past, and I've had nothing but really good luck with them.
That's awesome. I love to hear it.
And that's really my honest opinion. People are going to just probably call or message you guys or contradicting me, but
go ahead and read off your home address so we can tell them where to send the hate mail.
And your home phone number.
I will not tell you that.
So, you got September 15th of 03, you got the 6.0 was introduced. Then 07 got introduced with some emissions equipment. And now you move to 08. You kind of switch it up. You get to a high pressure, almost a CP3 pump.
Right.
What is it, K15 pump?
Right.
And twin turbos. You got a pretty solid truck, but this motor has a bad rap. I call them 100,000 mile bungee cord motors. I've seen them at 100,000 miles have catastrophic failure. Are you seeing this?
Okay. I guess we can recap after, but I got something good kind of leading towards your catastrophic failure. I think anybody who drives a Ford diesel is basically just used to the old 7.3, whether it's old body style or the late 7.3. Those engines basically would run on nothing. I used to work with guys that used to run a 50-50 mix of diesel and use automatic transmission fluid. Okay, and I'm not lying. They did it. They did the same thing with the 6-liter Powerstroke.
We don't recommend that, by the way, to our listeners. We do not recommend that, just so they're listening, just so they know.
But they ran and showed minimal injector issues. So now we've got a bigger motor, the 6.4. We've got more injection pressure. We've got basically dual of everything when it comes to the emissions. We've got particulate filters. We've got a new engine, a 6.4. And people are so used to the 6-liter and the 7.3, and they're not keeping up with fuel filters. They think because they drive a diesel, they can do oil changes every 7 or 8, 10,000 miles. And now they're rerouting emission components.
Right.
And they're hopping up, and they're putting in there an H300 tune, and they're racing a Mustang from stop to stop.
I don't hear the problem.
Well, the engine blows. The engine blows, and it's always number 8 piston, number 8 cylinder that has a hairline crack from 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock position.
That's
I mean,
specific.
it's rare. I mean, you're talking to somebody who works on and rebuilds motors. The bottom ends don't pop up. The bottom ends don't come out. It's always piston issues. It's pressure. It's temperature. So is it a rep? I mean, I guess the question is, are they easy to get horsepower? Absolutely. You can do an emissions reroute. You can drop a tune, and you've got 600 horses on a stock turbo.
So what's this big deal? Why are these guys going from a twin turbo application from the factory to a large single? What's the thing?
This does baffle me too, Art. I got to tell you, everybody else in the industry is adopting the idea that compound twins are better than singles. And in the aftermarket world, everything I deal with is selling guys to get into a twin kit. And here there are the Powerstroke jamokes, and they're pulling twins off to put a single on. Why on earth are they doing it?
Power, flow, EGTs.
Restriction.
And yeah.
Hold on. So I want to get this clear. I recommend on common rail diesel motors to put a twin turbo on, because if you run a small high pressure turbo in the valley or as your primary charger, and then you run a big atmospheric charger, you'll have better EGT control, higher peak power, and an all around improved drivability. You'll have less lag and make more power. Are you saying 6.4 guys want all of that? They want high EGTs, they want a lot of lag, and they want to make the same peak power? I guess I don't get it.
The question is, the diesel community, and I don't support it, is they want to blow smoke.
Oh.
Those guys.
Yes, and that's what it is. These guys, and I don't support it, I'm sorry. Why? Because black smoke is basically lost power. It's money out of your pocket.
God, you're preaching here. I love it.
Oh, he's right.
You're totally right.
We go for that
and
too.
That's the number. I see it all the time. Guys come in here and they want to throw a big old S467 on a 6.4, and it's just like, why? Well, I want to roll coal. I was like, listen, man, why don't you sit down? Let's talk about this.
Here's a glass of water.
Can you produce power? Yeah, but it's going to take you a while to get there. You're going to have massive turbo lag.
It just blows my mind. I mean, I'm reminded of my friends in North Carolina who informed me about a Wally mod.
Oh, you're going to talk? You want to?
Do you know the Wally mod down there in Texas?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so the Wally mod's when somebody wants a lot of smoke and they don't have any money, they go get a Walmart bag and wrap it around the intake.
The Wally mod. I think I've heard it all.
Okay, so if I got a 6.4 and I want to get everything I can out of it, I got to assume with twins, and I don't know 6.4s at all. I'm totally ignorant to the platform. I've never built one. I don't have any friends who have built one. I know nothing about them. Am I like most diesels? Do I have more fuel than air? I got to imagine with twins from the factory, I have more air than fuel, right?
Right.
Okay, so I should be considering, if I want to do this the right way, if you were going to give your recommendation, would you recommend I go after more fuel, or would I change up my turbo system to get more out of my truck? Like, which one would make more sense?
I would probably, you're going to run out of rail pressure. That's a given.
Okay.
So I would probably start off, I would probably recommend pull the motor out and let's build it from the ground up before we even talk about a large turbo or bigger injectors.
Wow.
It's not a weak motor by all means. It's really not. But if we're talking, putting a 5971 millimeter 6376 on a compound setup, or if we're trying to go big like on an S400 platform, we're going to have to invest some money into the bottom end.
I mean, we're talking
into the fuel delivery.
$15,000 in a built motor, $5,000 in a fuel system.
I just finished, and this is probably the next topic. I finished a $55,000 build on a 6.7 Powerstroke, and I think I kind of ran short, but that's what he ended up paying me.
Wow.
Because he came in on a fuel contamination. Same rule applies, whether it's a 6.4 or 6.7. These guys come in here on they fill up with the bad fuel, whether it's after rainfall, water, or the high-pressure pump, basically just grenades, and we've got metal contamination throughout the fuel system. Well, you're going to take it to a Ford store or any reputable mechanic, and they're going to try to overhaul it for about $10,000.
Jesus.
So I got the call. The truck was towed in, and he told me what he wanted, And I told him the only way I would take this job is if we pull the motor out and we build it from the bottom up. We're talking billets, everything, forged pistons. And he did. He approved the repair, and we went in it with CP stuff, polydined, all the bearings, coated pistons, Hamilton Stage 2, valve springs, push rods, dual fuelers, 30% over injectors, S467, single turbo from Maryland, exhaust manifold, ARP hardware, dual lift pumps, amazing truck, really, really fun to drive.
Okay, so that was a 6.7s or single turbo from the factory, correct?
Right.
Okay.
But it's a single, kind of acts like a twin.
They revolutionized how I feel turbos should be made. I have gotten a
Right.
chance to see them in person.
They call it a twin scroll turbo.
Right.
So talk a little bit about that, Art. Yeah, tell me how the twin scroll works and why it's better than previous single turbos.
I mean, really, what do you get? The RPM? You get a good power at low and high RPM, right?
Basically, it was mounted in the valley, reducing turbo lag. Your exhaust manifolds are right there, minimizing turbo lag, high RPM. It's basically acting like a compound setup.
So what it does, from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong here, exhaust is diverted between one of the scrolls, and the scrolls is basically a turbine. It's
Right.
a different wheel depending on what RPM and fuel range you're in.
Correct.
Okay, so then the compressor wheel, it's the same compressor wheel? So it's a single compressor wheel and two turbines, basically?
Right.
Do I have this down?
Right.
The ports in the turbo are a little different than your traditional turbo, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So how do you feel like if I wanted to do, so it's $50,000 if I want to do a balls out 6.7, that's pretty normal. To be honest with you, I talked with one of the guys over at a Hypermax. I ran into him at Pool League last week. I was asking him, they build a lot of 7.3s there. I asked him, hey, if I want to do a 700 horsepower or 1,000 horsepower 7.3, what am I looking at? He said it's about $50,000. If you were to go to our sponsor, Calibrated Power, I've quoted a few for them. You're going to be somewhere in that $50,000 range. If you want a balls out 1,000 horsepower, 800 horsepower build, I would say even if you want like a balls out 2.5 build, you're probably going to be somewhere in that $35,000 to $55,000 range. So I think cost is pretty similar. We just did Cummins episode with Chris Emke. He was saying about the same if you're building a balls out Cummins, maybe a little bit less. They're a little bit cheaper to get some power out of.
Well, most of the money spent trying to reinforce that bottom end to withstand some of that pressure. And I mean, obviously, you're altering a motor that wasn't designed for that kind of horsepower.
Right. I hear you there. Okay. So what kind of recommendations do you have for maybe a single charger upgrade on a 6.7? If I don't want to go balls out, if I don't got $50,000 to throw at a $40,000 truck, right? Let's say
Right.
I got a 6.7.
Right.
I got a little bit of money. I want to go and I want to hit the strip and I want to race Danny's LBZ. And Danny's got a built trans, regular cab LBZ, stock turbo, badass tuning. That's about it, right? Pump.
Yeah.
He's got a CP mod 85% or something CP3 pump and a small set of sticks.
Yep.
Do I got your build down, Danny?
Yeah, you've been listening to me on the phone, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. Danny repeats that build list about 400 times a day. Okay, so tell me, if I want to beat his truck, which your truck, what does it run? What were you last time you had at the
High
track?
12s, very high 12s.
High 12s. That
What's
means
the horsepower on it?
1299.
540 at the rear wheel.
Yep. Stock turbo. So
Wow.
what do I need to do with my 6.7 to beat Danny's truck? Regular cab will say they're the same weight
Sure.
for sake of argument.
So you walked into my shop because the turbo, your stock turbo, basically grenaded.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for a budget build, something that's going to basically spank them.
Yeah.
Maryland Performance, their budget kit for the 6.7 Powerstroke. It comes in an option of an S363 or a 366. Horsepower, I think about 600. Tuning, probably about 650. I think it'll be a good race.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Hell yeah.
So
Hell yeah.
a lot of guys, have turbo issues with the 11s. You see a lot of the 11s and
Right,
12s in
and
your
that's what
shop,
we see a lot of that.
like oil problems.
And basically, this kit is a non-VGT. Obviously, special tuning is required, but I've been in them. They spool. We're talking 40, 45 PSI, quick.
Wow. That's pretty impressive, to be honest
Yeah.
with you. I mean, I've always said that I love Ford interiors and I love a ride in a Ford. I mean, they really are top notch in those departments. It's nice to know that somebody's out there building some power with them.
I just can't go to one because I will never hear the end of it.
That is true. Yes.
I've been so Duramax. I get a Ford or a Cummins, and holy cow, I'm never going to hear that. My phone's going to just ring with people.
Hate mail.
Most important, I mean, I tell my customers, whether we're doing a turbo upgrade, fuel injectors or exhaust, we want to just go ahead and plan for the future. You don't want to fall short, and you don't obviously want to overkill putting a big turbo, thinking, bigger is better. Well, that's not usually the case. We got to be moderate about the situation and kind of put it on paper and then talk it through.
I love it. I think that's great advice. Art, I definitely appreciate you joining us today and taking the time out to talk to our listeners about turbo upgrades for Powerstrokes.
Yeah, and can you tell everybody how to get a hold of you?
Sure.
Tell us your Facebook, your Twitter, your Snapchat, all your social media, everything.
We've got the website, pspdiesel.com. It's got links to Instagram and Facebook. You can follow us. I check my messenger on Facebook, every 5-10 minutes. I'm all about helping anybody out. You've got questions, you've got concerns, if you want me to pick you up from the bar, or if you're local, give me a call. I'll have a beer with you.
There you go.
What a good guy. I like it, Art.
Now you're talking.
Don't worry, I'm going to be down in Texas here soon, so we'll be following up with you when I'm at the farm show.
Exactly where are you in Texas?
Believe it or not, we're in South Houston.
South Houston.
There is a city in South Houston. It's fairly small. It's mainly industrial, a lot of commercial. We love it. It's kind of rough at night, but for the most part, we're known around the area. The community loves us. It's just a bunch of business people, and we're well known here in the Houston area.
I dig it, man. Well, I think all of our listeners across the country and even into Canada and some of the other countries out there that have been listening in are going to be really excited to hear what you had to share with us today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and I also enjoyed listening to you. You seem like any question we asked you, you knew right away.
Yeah,
so
very impressive.
Anybody that needs anything on the Powerstroke side, don't hesitate to call Art and pick his brain. He checks his messenger every 2 minutes.
Yeah, I'm going to add one more thing if we've got time.
Please.
For all you Powerstroke guys out there, 7.3, 6-liter, and 6.4, stay on top of your maintenance. Lifters is what's killing the engines. The needle bearings are falling off, oil pan end up in the low-pressure pump, and you wish you thought you had a motor.
Choked on my air here.
I think that matches up real well with what we've heard from our other Powerstroke specialist, Tim Slater, and even when we talked to the boys over at Amalgamated about fuel additives, maintenance is key, and I mean absolutely key when it comes to these Powerstrokes. So I hear you.
It really is, and for all you 6-liter guys out there who are revving your motors more than 4,000 RPM, keep your lookout for the low-pressure pump because it will grenade. So we're currently working on design. That's a new hot one out there. Probably hasn't really hit the forums yet, but just keep it low, keep it below 4,000.
Good advice. Well, Art, thank you one last time for joining us today. I really appreciate it. This has been Paul Wilson with the Diesel Performance Podcast.
And I'm Danny Voss.
Thank you so much for listening.
Thanks for having me.
The Diesel Performance Podcast is brought to you by Calibrated Power Solutions, home of Duramaxtuner.com, developer of performance engine and transmission calibrations for a wide variety of late model diesel powertrains, including the Duramax, Cummins, John Deere, Jeep, and many more. For more information and the best customer service in the industry, check out calibratedpower.com or call 815-568-7920.